I'm the director of editorial strategy. I focus on content outreach and creating events like this to bring the community together to talk about veterans issues, policy, general professional career trends, all of that our space entails. So the chat is open. So if you're interested in networking with any other attendees, feel free to put in your LinkedIn or your email, whatever you're comfortable with, your school affiliation, whatnot. It's always kind of fun to see who's here. And on the other side of that too, if you have ideas for content, sessions, anything relating to this space, feel free to send that over to me. I'll put my email in the chat as well. But I am going to stop talking and hand it over to Todd, who has a great session planned for us, and everyone's going to jump in and give us lots of great information today. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Monica. And Monica didn't realize when we started, and a small group of us started with the CCVCC. She didn't realize she became an automatic board member with us too. So as us, this is a grassroots really group, but although it's been forming and getting stronger the last couple years, and hopefully those who've been able to attend. If you're new, really the idea is to pull uh, college counselors that primarily work with our veterans, dependents, military affiliates. So I'm going to turn it over to the other two, which is nice to see. I know our fourth one, Janelle, had to do interviews today. So we have Colin and Bobby. So I'll introduce you guys. I'll turn it over to you. And I forgot to say, Todd Steffen. I work at Diablo Valley College as a veterans counselor, but I've been in the system working with our veterans and military affiliates. Some of you know me for, gosh, a while and some days, and I love it. So it's great to form this kind of grassroots opportunity to support our students. So I'll turn it over to you, Colin and Bobby.
Sure. My name is Colin Williams. I'm the Vets Program Coordinator at Saddleback College, just north of Camp Pendleton, down in Southern California. Counselor by trade. Also do some DSPS counseling at this point still. But yeah, happy to be here and present.
Yes, hello. My name is Bobby Walden. I am a veterans counselor as well, but up at Butte College. So in Northern California, we're in opposite ends of the spectrum, me and Colin. So yeah, this is a great group. I mean, it's really been something I think that's been lacking in our cohort for a long time. So I really want to put a lot of praise to the team that's really done a lot of work to put this together, keep it going, and continue to bring high quality presenters in, so that way we can all have a really well-rounded wealth of knowledge. So I'll turn it back over to Todd, but thank you.
Sure, and great to see you, Bobby. I know you've been super busy. Everybody, right? We're right in week 2 or week 3, depending on what school you're at. Uh, we're going to try to get a little high tech, a little more interactive too. So, Monica, do you want to try do the? And I know many of you probably had different Zoom where they do the chat waterfall. You want to
Yeah, I
share?
can try. So,
And if we fail, we'll go on to the next.
yeah, and we're being innovative today. This is innovative for us. So, to get us going in the chat, if you have one word that describes veterans counseling at your college right now, think about that, and then we can go 3, 2, 1, and we'll all hit at the same time, and hopefully we don't crash Zoom. But so think about that word. If you have one word that describes veterans counseling at your college right now, and don't send it yet. Give a couple seconds. Hopefully you've had some time to process. Okay, let's see if this works. Let's see if people are engaged, Todd. All right, we're gonna send it in 3, 2, 1, send. Oh, wow, look at that. People are engaged. Love it. I'm seeing a pretty wide spectrum of words, so that's kind of fun to see.
Yeah.
We tried, and it's nice to see establishing, rewarding, meaningful. There's some very positive, some very truthful ones too, right? So thank you for sharing. We're going to go right into, and if you haven't put, go ahead and put it into the chat. Um, we kind of move some stuff around because this is very important, right? If we don't have funding, uh, a lot of our programs, and we still struggle, right? And the Veterans Caucus, which has some great individuals, Chancellor Rick and Ryan and Nancy Montgomery and different individuals have really been pushing for some of this additional funding. And I'm going to turn it over to Rick and Ryan to share a little bit about where it is, because I know, Rick, you have to go, and Ryan, I hope you can stay with us longer. Turn it over to you guys.
Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, hey, good morning, everybody. I wasn't sure I was going to be here this morning. But it's great to see everybody. The Veterans Caucus has been, I think the last time we were here, I mentioned that we were really trying to focus our attention on, yeah, it's a very passionate group of people that jump in on the Veterans Caucus. Many trustees and, our friends from around the state. It was getting pretty diffuse, big, chaotic, I guess, if you want to, unachievable, I guess, was where Ryan and I kind of came to, because it wasn't strategic or focused. And that's not a criticism, because there's so many things that our veterans need from us, and especially in our colleges. But what we boiled it down to was really looking at the Veterans Center and coming at our veteran centers with the very paltry support that we're receiving around the state, and trying to find a way to have some meaningful impact on that funding in a way that would bring more resources to all of our colleges at a basic level. And so we've kind of been working that issue over the last year or so, working directly with the chancellor's office. I've had several conversations with our state chancellor, Sonia Christian, and you'll notice whenever you read about credit for prior learning, that embedded in all of that is always the language around veterans and our service to veterans. And so Ryan and I spent quite a bit of time thinking through, okay, how do we leverage where the state and the state chancellor's office is appearing to want to go, use the own work that was used to develop the criteria and the staffing models and what would make serving veterans effective in our institutions. So counseling, certifying officials, and now credit for prior learning, and looking at leveraging those ideas and those directions in terms of trying to prop up support for this funding for our veteran centers. And so that's what we've done. I think I'll pause there, and Ryan is a much better spokesperson for the specifics of this work that we put together. And I think it would be great for him to kind of walk us through what that looks like. But I guess the good news is, before I do that, is it's a bad news, good news thing. Bad news being we're not sure if it's going to get funded, the funding that's out there on the table right now. The good news is that we have kind of turned the corner on support, and we have some ideas and moving forward. And we're taking a view that this is a long game issue. We're trying to get some short wins, some quick wins in this, but we do see a way forward now. So with that, Ryan, good morning. It's good to see you.
Good morning, all. Ryan Corner. I'm the superintendent president for Glendale Community College. Not a military veteran myself, but a huge military and veteran supporter. Worked at the West LA VA and the PTSD outpatient service team. And it's just something that I'm very passionate about. So happy to be here. It's interesting to look at the words that people did. It's good timing, Monica, in terms of the question, because you see everything from the positive to the overwhelming. How much good we do and can do, and how little we do it with. And our approach was really simple in the aspect of looking at what the state saw as the responsibility of the Veterans Resource Centers on our 116 campuses and what the requirements should be for what service we're providing and what they're actually funding us. And the Veterans Resource Centers, as a model, were based on schools that were doing great and excellent work with student veterans, and stipulate that we should have a full-time director, a full-time certifying official who is not the director, and a counselor. And that should be the minimum standard, even for colleges that may not have a robust veterans population, because we know that those needs are specific. And like many special populations we deal with, we need to make sure that we, create that culture that's receptive to what our veterans need to be successful. What we found is that throughout the state, we're not meeting that standard. And part of the reason we're not meeting that standard is that the funding has not changed for Veterans Resource Centers in the decade that it's been in existence. They provide $9 million to the state. So most of our institutions, and it is divvied out based on veterans populations, receive less than what is required for one full-time staff member. And yet, what we've recognized is that the minimum standard should be 3 full-time staff members or faculty, if we're talking about the counselor. And we want to make sure that that funding is there to support that. The gap in that is an additional $35 million to make sure that we can meet that gap. Moving from 9 to about $44 million would provide a level funding to make sure that our Veterans Resource Centers at least had that minimum level staff. I can speak for my college. We have grown quite a bit in terms of student veterans. We have over 200 now, and we get $60,000 from the state for service for veterans. That doesn't even cover one person. And so we need to invest to make sure that we can effectively serve our student veterans, and we need the state support. In our discussion with the Chancellor's office, they were willing to meet us halfway. And they actually put in a funding request for 14.5 million, some of which they were taking off the top to deal with issues for credit for prior learning, but it would more than double what each of our colleges would be seeing in terms of support for the Veterans Resource Centers. And I can speak for my college, and that would mean I'd immediately hire a full-time certifying official, because we're well beyond that 125 recommendation for certifying officials that the Veterans Affairs Office recommends. It'd be immediate. And it'd be immediate relief of our director who's taking on those duties, and that would allow him to more successfully plan a program. So we've developed that. We've decided to back the chancellor's approach because it's better to come in unity, and we can always go back and ask for more, and we can very clearly say this gets us halfway. Rick's team put together a great one-sheeter, so we can make that available to people that is from the caucus, not from any individual college, that really says this is the need and this is what our ask is. What we found is that people were very receptive. This is great politics, but that doesn't mean that the great politics get funded. There's a lot of competing interests out there in terms of getting things into the budget. And our request is for ongoing funding, and that's a little bit more challenging than doing one-time funding. But earlier in the year, the third week of January, we did meet with the heads of both the Assembly and the State Senate's Veterans Committee chairs, and they seemed very receptive. We believe, though, that we need to have a little bit more of a secondary push. We're going to be prepping letters to those individuals, asking them to do a formal request in the budget for that funding. And we're also in the process of drafting a letter of support that each of you could then send and say that we are requesting that this funding is needed. It will have the general statements that we're making right here in terms of what we know the value is, but allow for you to put in your personal perspective. When we read through these comments, and Ryan, you said complex. I can imagine that you could put some words in there that speak to the complexity and how funding is needed to do that. We look through and Matthew, you said lacking. Let's have a conversation about what's lacking because what we know about a lot of folks that work with veterans is that many are veterans themselves, and they will do the work at the sacrifice of themselves. That's who they are. That's what they've been built into the culture. And we see that with our veteran services, but we can't let our staff's dedication get in the way of everybody else understanding that there's a problem. And the problem is that veterans are not being funded appropriately so that we can support them. So those are kind of our things that we've already accomplished. We think we have a good shot this year. It's not a guarantee, which is why we're going to be asking folks to definitely weigh in and make sure that there's an awareness that this isn't just coming from, the 30 some odd members of our caucus, but this is a deep need that's felt across the state. Rick, I don't know. Todd?
Yeah, if we have any questions out there,
Hey,
Corey.
Todd, I won't put it up long, but I can just briefly share what the one pager looks like if you want to have folks take a look at that. And then we'll make sure we send it out to everybody.
Yep.
Be great, Rick.
Okay.
I like the graphics too. I really appreciate your team for putting in this work.
Should be pretty self-explanatory, but again, we'll make sure that we get this copy. Todd, you have a copy of this already, don't you?
Yeah, and I can send it out after today to
Okay.
all that participate.
Okay, I'll go ahead and pull that down unless anybody wants me to keep it up, has any questions about it, if there's anything you see that jumps out at you.
Ryan, if you want to touch on it a little bit now, the question on what would be considered a robust veteran and military connected community versus a non-robust, maybe just touch on that for a moment.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any hard number. What we're just suggesting is that because the funding is based on number of veterans, there's sometimes an assumption that there's not a minimum standard for what's required to do that work. But if we look throughout our state, there's some colleges that have tens of veterans, 10, 20, 30. And then there's some colleges that have hundreds. East LA College, it's a very large college, and used to work there. Jessica Peak out there does amazing work. This last fall, they had 542 veterans. And so, what we want to recognize is that there are groups that definitely have these huge programs, but we also need to have a minimum standard so that you don't have a situation where, because of where you live, you don't have the services you need to be supported in your post-military education.
Colin, you want to chime in?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember back in the day, I think before the funding first got approved, I think the whole state, all the VRCs, we did a trip to Sacramento to advocate. I know many of us will be heading to DC to support SVA's legislative advocacy effort the beginning of March. And I felt like that was pretty effective when we did it. I mean, this must have been, Todd helped me out here, like, I don't know, 8, maybe 10 years ago. Would that be helpful, or would there be would that be something that we should start talking about, or maybe planning, or I don't know. What's your thoughts,
Yep.
Ryan?
That came up at our caucus. I'm going to pass over to Rick and Todd because I think the question is the answer is we're not sure yet. We're not sure exactly um, we need to get a better sense of where it might be in the mix and where the leverage points are, but I'll pass off to Rick.
No, I think that's exactly it. The work that originally happened, I think somebody told me it was like 500 veterans went to the Capitol. And you know, that's obviously pretty powerful. If we're gonna marshal, organize sort of a big effort, to Ryan's point, we just want to make sure that it's going to the right place at the right time. And then at the right level of communication. So we're just not sure where that is yet. We do need to follow up with the chancellor's office probably between now and our next league meeting anyway, to kind of get a sense of what is happening in Sacramento, what is happening with the chancellor's office on this advocacy at this level now. Many of you know it wasn't included in the governor's budget specifically, but there's that big block grant line where they use that as an example of funding on the chancellor's budget side of what it might fund, but it's kind of that what it might fund thing. So we need to get a little more clarity, first of all, where the chancellor's office is on this, and then kind of recalibrate and look at, okay, what do we want to do? It may be that kind of an effort that we did 8-9 years ago. But it may not need to be that as well. So I think we just need to figure that out.
Yeah, our probably first starting point is going to be to reach out to Bob Archuleta's office. It's sometimes easier to get things rolling on the Senate side because there's fewer people involved, and they tend to have a little bit more leverage in the budget discussions. He is a huge military supporter. He chairs the committee. And if we can get him to at least put in the budget request, then we have something more specific that we are marching towards. We can say, this request has been made. We are here to say that it should happen. He may also say, yeah, the request is there, and don't worry about it, guys. We got this. In which case, letter writing might just be enough. We just don't have a clear sense of where the pushback's going to be, and part of that is also how the governor's office and the legislature are going to react to the LAO's legislative analyst's office discussion of the budget. They have come out saying that the governor is a little too rosy. I will say he probably is, but he's also been right the last 3 years when all of his rosy projections. The LAO has said that he's over projecting for the last 3 years, and they've been wrong. We need to just have a better understanding of what the willingness will be to commit ongoing funding, which is definitely what we want.
Great. Thank you, guys. I know this will be an ongoing discussion, and I know when Colin brought up in the past, it was that there was a couple different legislators that were really supporting the funding, and then the budget committees. Those were where it was powerful. Just going there and saying, "Hey, I support this." We had a bunch of different individuals, so that. Thank you for the work that the Veterans Caucus has been doing, and we'll see how our group can also, maybe support and submit a letter on behalf, right, of faculty, veterans counselors, whatever it may be, right? So thank you. Monica, do you want to put, and I don't want to cut anybody from asking questions. Definitely, if you have questions for, these guys, we can get the questions to them as well. Monica, do you want to put another chat prompt and try it before we go right into Colin? I know we're running a little behind.
All right, I just launched it, so hopefully you are all okay. There it goes. Are you seeing the results as well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
While that's happening, Todd, I'm going to have to run. Ryan, it's good to see you. All of you serving our colleges and our veterans, thank you for the work you're doing. I should have started at the beginning. I got my job as a veterans work study student in the Office of Student Affairs at Portland State University, where I was a recipient of the GI Bill at the time. And that the role of Portland State's Veteran Services has everything to do with the chair I'm sitting in today. So I commend the work that you're doing. It's important to our veterans. It's important to our state. It's important to our country. So thank you for that. And thanks for letting us jump in today, and we'll talk soon.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Rick.
All right, Colin, I'm turning it out to you. I know we're running a little behind, but
Okay. Let's
we
do it.
don't have Janelle, so that part that we had at the end for mapping credit for prior learning can be, if we don't have that, we don't have that. So this is key. So turn it right to you.
Okay. Let's share my screen. All right, everybody see my screen? Let's see, not my restart. Cancel, snooze. Well,
I see your Facebook page. No, wait a minute.
right. Let's see.
Don't do that. That's mean.
Let's see here. How do I get rid of this guy? Sorry about this. Let's see, snooze, don't restart. Let me stop sharing. Let me try one other way here. Switch screens. All right, that should look better. Okay, so I get to talk a little bit about the Academic Senate's new role of counseling faculty in delivering counseling services paper that was shared recently. I know Todd sent this out. This is just, it's important in terms of this is an updated role of counseling by our Academic Senate since the first update since 2012. So it's been quite a bit of time. I think we all know, preaching in the choir a little bit, but counselors at community colleges are fairly unique when you look at the nationwide institutions of higher learning. Most have advisors and stuff like that, where we're a little bit different on the counseling side. And this paper does a great job, not only legitimizing our work, but really making some powerful statements about and like really articulating what we do, the complexity of what we do, and why we should do it. It speaks really specifically to a couple, like one issue in particular, and that's the new kind of integration of success coaches or advisors at the community colleges to help supplement the existing counseling faculty. If you don't have the document, happy to share it. I'm sure Todd will send it out with everything else at the end of the meeting. But if you haven't taken a look at it, please do. Keep it handy. There's great text and context in here that you can use to justify specific counseling for veterans. So we'll go through this. I did some slides real quick, and we'll kind of go through some of the main points I wanted to talk about. There's a lot of, the document speaks a lot about why counselors are important in community colleges, the training that we've received to do this kind of work. And there are instances in the document that talk about specific or are specific to student veterans. But it really makes a good argument about why we are faculty and not classified staff. And so one of the things, these slides, like I take some good quotes. I thought I found some good quotes in the document. But this, I think it speaks to it, right? Counseling is a specialized academic faculty role, not a general administrative task. And if anybody saw my session at the last Veterans Symposium on veterans counseling, that's kind of my soapbox, so to speak, especially on the veteran side of the house, where there's many factors that we need to deal with in a counseling session, not just an academic plan. It's far greater than that. And that second bullet speaks to it a little bit. It's very complex, benefits, personal counseling, reintegration, I think this paper speaks to it quite well, is that we always want to view our profession as transformational rather than transactional. And we can easily get into that habit. I know I am guilty of it at times. I have to reframe and focus, but the transactional nature of academic planning for benefits versus really transformational student interaction. It's a big difference. And as veterans counselors, we need to be focused on the transformational side. Veterans have unique needs. We know this. In the paper, it talks about various equity groups and special populations. I kind of point to Dylan Bender's Warrior's Dilemma book. I think it's it really kind of dovetails into this document, articulating really the difficulty of reintegration after military service, especially into higher education. Again, veterans are a special population. They should be in all equity discussions. They are primarily, the vast majority have service-connected disabilities. The majority are reentry students, adult learners. You can check the box on and on and on for our population, and they meet many of those equity metrics. I think as we know, and I think a seasoned counselor in general often can find during an appointment that academic issues or challenges are really just symptoms of a greater situation or greater issue that the veteran or another student's going through. We're trained to do that. That's why we all have master's degrees or higher. And, we need to rely on that expertise to identify those things and help the veteran move forward. The quote on the bottom right, counseling faculty are uniquely trained in human development, both normal and abnormal, and are in a unique position to anticipate challenges and initiate interventions before they become a crisis. So just that alone really, broadens the scope of our work beyond a veteran's academic plan. And I know we do that, a lot of those, and it's quite challenging. I think in the comments at the beginning, to encompass everything in a holistic manner for every student, it's very rewarding. I will say that, but it also takes a lot of energy. But it's important. It's extremely important. So this one, this slide kind of talks about the coaches, success coaches, advisors versus counselors. I think, I don't want to put just really a negative connotation on success coaches and advisors. I know we have them here at Saddleback, and many of them are very well trained, have a lot of education behind them, and do great work in support of the general counseling faculty. And sometimes they're needed. We know that many of us don't have as many counselors as we need. So it's a way to supplement our efforts, and that's a good thing. But we just really need to be careful about the roles that they serve. And counselors should be really the stewards of that, and really just make sure that the success coaches and advisors really are providing information. They're not making judgments or calls on a person's academic journey. And we know that without the proper training and background like we have, or many of us have for sure, there can be really negative repercussions for the student veteran, such as running out, exhausting their benefits, not transferring in time because we can't evaluate a joint services transcript properly, classes being covered, being certified for benefits that shouldn't be, can cause debts. We know all this stuff. This should really fall solely in the realm of a counseling faculty member. Success coaches really should not be doing academic plans or even going into those issues with our students. And this is an equity issue, I think this is really important to make sure that veterans or somebody that represents this population has a seat at the table in equity discussions. I know a lot of times veterans are not included. We should be, but many times we're not. But those equity populations, when you talk about access and success, really require a lot more than baseline information sharing that a success coach or an advisor might be providing. It's very complex and nuanced, and faculty are specifically trained in those things, which is why we should be leading these discussions at the table and be the first point of contact for our student veterans. And that goes back to this comes out a lot, I think, in the paper, and it's human development. It's the knowledge of human development, and it's the expertise and insight and judgments. So making a judgment call in coordination with the student to help them find a positive resolution to anything that they're going through is solely a faculty member's area of expertise. It really doesn't fall beyond anybody else. It doesn't fall to anybody else. We're the ones with the training. We have the experience and knowledge to help our students make the proper judgments when moving through higher education. And we got to make sure that stays with us. That's why we have minimum quals, right? The counselor as the systems perspective. So this is interesting. This came up, this verbiage, the systems perspective came up in the paper, and I wasn't really familiar with it. So I did a little recon and tried to figure it out. And the next slide will explain what systems perspective means. But really what it kind of boils down to, in my opinion, is holistic stewardship or holistic support of our students. As faculty, master's level or above counselors in community colleges, we have that insight and knowledge of the whole student. So not only their academic journey, but their personal situations, readjustment issues, pending legislation, integration into other student services departments, the advocacy that's needed on campus to ensure that they're well supported. It's a full wraparound perspective. And it's a perspective that relies on our knowledge of the systems that we work in. And again, that really lies with the faculty counseling and the faculty counseling role. It's that systems perspective. Advocacy, holistic counseling are integrated into that systems perspective. The opportunity to participate in shared governance is a part of that perspective. So as veterans counselors, I know that many of us work really hard and serve a lot of students, sometimes on our own, or sometimes even half of our load is with those, with student veterans, serving them, and half is with another population. It makes it difficult to find the time to participate in shared governance and committees. We need to make a pretty good effort, or as best as we can, effort to get a seat at the table at those things and advocate for our students. I know it's difficult. I had difficulty doing that, finding release time, getting permission from my dean to serve on certain committees because it takes away from my counseling hours and there's a student need. So, it's delicate, but it's really our responsibility to do that, because without us at the table, and I think we all can agree that in most veterans departments, it's just maybe one or two or three people. There's not a lot of folks. But the importance of getting on those committees and making change to eliminate some of those barriers in support of equity on the 2030 initiatives is super important. And we need to make a concerted effort to do so. So this is what systems perspective is, and it's the 5 bullets. It's quite a bit, but I think it really speaks to the complexity of our roles in special populations. It's a lot, and it's hard sometimes to articulate exactly what we do when we're asked by a dean or supervisor or fellow colleague, like, why is it so hard to, why, or like in Todd's sense, why can't we get other counselors to volunteer for some veterans hours? It's because it's all these things. It's all these things, and it's complex. There's, there's really For the students, the ability and expertise for you to do your job is extremely important because their livelihood usually depends on it. So it's quite a bit of things. This is that systems perspective, and this is something that we should have, and I think we do have. All right, just a quick summary in the interest of time here. So, we have a unique role. This role is supported by the Academic Senate of the California Community Colleges. This has been vetted. This has gone through committees. This has been approved. We own it. This is our job. And our job is complex and requires a lot of expertise, which we hold. The veterans piece adds another layer on top of these expertise. And that's something that we need to articulate frequently. And our job, obviously, aligns with the Vision 2030 through the Chancellor's Office. And we need to make sure we're doing professional development like this, like the CCVCC. Veteran Summit is coming up in June. Like, all those things are super important. We need to be integrated into those things. And we also need to be a part of shared governance and have a seat at the table for campus-wide discussions to really eliminate barriers for our students and support them in the best way. I'm going to leave it at that. I'll stop sharing.
Colin? Todd, do you have any follow-up there?
Let me I'll drop the document in the chat.
Well, let's do that. I think it's interesting because I recall prior college, we received that grant, the Center of Excellence, and that, this was before I was a counselor and like success coach, because we had limited funding and they were great, like doing outreach and initial, but in my mind was, well, maybe they could help with doing some education plans or having that discussion, follow-ups. And I had a conversation with our veterans counselor at the time and really cleared that. And this even makes more sense why. And I worry, I think Colin, we're in the same boat, that, we look at budgets. Let's say we have more veterans. We want to serve them, as administrators that are trying to balance the two, serving students and budgets. It might be like, oh, well, we could do this. And I appreciate the PowerPoint, Colin, because it really, shows the level of expertise that is required, right, in those conversations. So that's my perspective. So thanks.
Yeah, I'll download this as a PDF and put it in the chat here. It's actually a lot. We're going to talk about that HR 980 on the voc rehab side. A lot of overlap in the VA world. Todd and I were discussing about replacing master's level VR&E counselors with bachelor's level VA benefit coordinators, or whatever they want to call it. And so actually this paper speaks to a lot of the concerns that VA VR&E counselors are sharing regarding having their job done by somebody at a lower level without that understanding and context.
So should we go right into that and then open up the questions, since they both kind of relate into each other? What do you guys think?
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
So we have our special guest from Student Veterans of America, who, they're in DC all the time with policies. And thank you for joining us. It was a very short notice too. I'm going to turn it over to you, let you do a little introduction, maybe talk a little bit about the SVA. I think most from that are here know the value of Student Veterans of America, but I think good opportunity. And Terrence Nelson actually sent me this message about, and I didn't even know about this federal policy. And there's a lot of federal policies that come and go, but I was like, I need to reach out because this could have a big impact, especially on our student veterans with Chapter 31, and then also our counselors. So it seemed really appropriate to tie it in. So thank you for joining. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Faisal, or good afternoon for me on the East Coast. Good morning for you all. My name is Faisal Solman. I'm the legal fellow here at Student Veterans of America. For anyone that isn't familiar with SVA, pretty much we are the catalyst to through Beyond Higher Education to our student veterans, caregivers, family members, survivors. And just talking about HR 980, the Veterans Readiness and Employment Improvement Act, pretty much, and some of these, this was also like touched on throughout the conversation so far, but this removes the requirement that ed and vocational counseling services by the employee. It kind of eliminates that master's degree requirement. And this would expand the eligibility for professionals in related fields. So not limited to, of course, but benefit counselors, outreach specialists, rehab counselors to pretty much provide these services. And now this does like touch on like two things. And this bill also covers another thing that I also want to talk about. So the concern for having a person that doesn't have master's degrees to help go through with your benefits, and you kind of, question like, is this person qualified to do it? And then I'll decide like these cases have a wide, varied range of complexity, right? And we often hear that ratio of VRC to student, that recommended 125 to like 1, and or 1 to 1 to 125. It's something we hear that's never really met. And the goal of this legislation would be to help like reach that. To just have more people as a VRC to help address cases on the whole, with the hope, I guess, and intention of giving those more complex cases to those that have that highly qualified masters, right? Another thing I want to touch on that this bill does do, it establishes a dedicated VRE hotline for Chapter 31 beneficiaries, and it mandates secretary to also approve or deny any extension requests to that program within 30 days of submitting it. And it also requires for a 5-year period for a report to be published and collect that data to see how many extensions were requested to VRE, how many approvals, and how many denials, just to keep that accountability measure in check. And something I kind of want to also touch on, Todd, you mentioned the Center of Excellence, the grant, CEVSS. And we get a question a lot saying, that grant, for anyone that isn't familiar, was a grant by the Department of Education to help establish a Center of Excellence, Student Veteran Center on campus. And the grant's been around for, I think, since 2010, 2015 or so. Typically awards $500,000. That's about average to help establish one on your campus if you don't have one. For anyone in the DC area, Howard University was actually one of the most recent recipients of that grant. Before the grant kind of like fizzled out with the change of administration. However, there is a bill in Congress right now, HR 6358, the Veteran Education Empowerment Act, that seeks to bring that program back with as a pilot program of sorts for 8 years, to help pretty much mimic that program from ed. So if anyone is interested in reaching out to a member of Congress for that, that is a way to help solve that issue, tackle the issue of funding that we hear come so often. I mean, that's really it. That's all I have, just for the sake of interest of time, so we could open up the questions. I'm more than happy to chat with this offline with anyone about what we do at SVA as a policy level. We did write a statement for the record back on March 11th of last year in support of HR 980. Since then, the bill has been modified a little bit, hasn't combined some other bills at that time. But I can also provide that as well. And I'll put my contact information in the chat for anyone that wants to reach out.
Well, it sounds like there's some very positive things with I only got the one part with HR 980. What's it looking like moving forward? I know individuals can go on and sign up and see. I'm just kind of curious from your perspective, does it have, we're in crazy times, would that go through? Because it does seem like it would serve more veterans, but maybe not, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak. I'm not. Unfortunately, I can't be a fortune teller. But I mean, it did pass the House, and right now, veteran bills passing the House is a far and few thing. Usually, I mean, honestly, the last big veterans bill package was Bill Elizabeth Dole. That was passed January 2nd, 2025. We really haven't had many bills pass the House, pass Congress, or just become law since then. There is a markup on several bills out of the House Veteran Affairs Committee going on today and later in the month. But again, things just have been moving slow. Um, However, the fact that this has passed the House bipartisanly is a sign that it may potentially pass the Senate. And um, again, like I mentioned, HR 980 in its current state was a combination of other bills from that March 11th hearing. I think it combines 3 or 4 different bills from that hearing into this one like mini package, I guess we can call it. So if it does pass, I mean, there are many like great things that can come with it. Lots of oversight measures, and also just the ability to help um, student veterans on the whole, wherever they are, and ideally lessen that VRC counselor overload that we've been hearing about.
So that's in that bill, the 980, it's back in with the committee, right? The Veterans Affairs Committee.
No,
Is that
so
correct?
since yeah, it was correctly correct. It was in that committee, but because it's already passed the House, it's going to the Senate, and most likely it will also be in the Senate Veteran Affairs Committee, with the chairman, Senator Moran, and ranking member Blumenthal.
So, yeah, I saw it went through the Senate, then went, I guess, back to the Veterans, not the House, of course, but the Veterans Committee on the Senate side. So what, and to your knowledge, is there still time to make suggestions, adjustments to that, or is it as is?
So the Senate will receive the version as is, based on the House. However, um, it would be worth reaching out to the members of the Senate Veteran Affairs Committee to, make your concerns, any concerns that anyone may have about that, to change any section. I know there were like some comments on Section 2, specifically for
Mhm.
for the elimination of the master's degree requirement.
That
It
was
would be
me.
worth, yeah. I wasn't gonna air you out here, Colin. But yeah, so it would be worth reaching out to your member on the Senate about that. If anything, the way it would work is that they could pass it or be send it back with amendments and get that conversation started. And if they pass it as is, or if they pass a version that's different, it'll go back to the House and they'll talk in committee trying to fix that, reconcile those differences. So right now we're on the teeter totter, and I guess we're right here right now.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, I mean it's great. It's great in general. I mean, for the last two SVA Washington Week trips, VRNE.
I guess the snooze button.
Yeah, the suspense.
It got pulled. Did you do that, Monica? You pulled him, huh?
Yeah, I did. I cut him off. Yeah. Well, we'll wait till I'm sure he'll jump back on here, but if anybody does have questions that they want to raise their hand or throw in the chat, we can keep an eye out. Just wanted to mention that if anybody does have to run for other meetings, thank you so much for coming today and joining, and thank you for your work, and keep on. We got this.
Oh, I also do want to say on Colin's last point about SBA's Washington Week. Our website for registration should be opening up very soon, so keep on the lookout for that. It's expected to be from March 2nd to March 4th, with SVA's testimony being on March 3rd on the second panel, at 11 p.m. give or take. Sorry, 11 a.m. give or take. But again, be on the lookout for that. Saddleback Community College, they are our chapter of the year. So it'd be great to recognize them though. So just a little plug, and I can end that.
Yeah, thanks for plugging it. That's huge. There's quite a few California community colleges with the SVA this go around that were nominated and selected, right? So huge, huge for the California schools. So thank you for all the work that you're doing out in DC too. I can't even imagine out there. And thanks for those. I was talking to Monica, probably normally we have this meeting every other month basically, but I think we're going to try to get one into March. So be on the lookout for a date, and we're going to focus primarily on women veterans as well, so we can bring in some keynotes. Uh, Bobby, do you want to? I know we lost Colin. I'll let you close it out. Thanks all. I know it's a lot of info to take in. It's definitely not a one and done. So anytime you guys have any questions, reach out to any of us. But Bobby, I'll let you close it out.
Yeah, thank you, Todd. Yeah, I'll just kind of echo what's already been stated, which is we need continued advocacy, we need to have continued support for leadership. That starts at the ground level at our local colleges and then continues through organizations like this and the student veteran organization. So I would just say great presentation today. Really enjoyed getting this information and having a tangible documents so I can share that with my constituents here locally and elsewhere. So with that, I'll let you go and turn it back to Todd, or we'll close the meeting and we'll see you hopefully next month.
And I know, Monica, there'll be availability, like always, recorded that we can share out too, which is great.
Yes.
So thank you from higher ed, military to Monica. We couldn't do this without you. So really appreciate it. You guys have a great, I guess, 4-day weekend for many. My kids have a President Week. So I'm just like, when did that happen? But anyways, you take care.
Thank you all.